In this episode, we're gonna service the bike, change the oil, add a filter, then add some coolant, tune the carburetors to the factory specification, fix both of the fuel sensors with a really cheap fix, around €1 per sensor, so stick around for that. Then we're gonna get the bike ready the rest of the way, so that's fairing, seat, foot pegs and some miscellaneous bits and pieces. So yeah, welcome to the 6th episode of the Honda XR-V Rebuild series. Make yourself comfortable and enjoy the video.